want to talk about the government of Dominica's commitment to education in Dominica. For a few years now, the Prime Minister has been talking about his educational goal of having a graduate in every household, and I think he might be very close to getting to that goal. However, the goal of having a graduate in every household does not come with that graduate being able to stay in Dominica or come back to Dominica and help to build Dominica. So what we're having is a lot of people going overseas to study, getting those degrees, so they're getting very qualified, they're getting all the experience and the qualification out there, and then they're staying out there, they're not coming back. So what we're doing is we're educating these people, we're making sure that all the families have a graduate among them overseas working to help them back in Dominica. So that's basically what it is. The Prime Minister should just say it as it is. He wants to make sure that every family has a university graduate that can go overseas and work to help their family, because otherwise the family will have to be begging the government for handouts. So that's basically the plan. For me, the way I see it, it looks like a sound plan, and it's working out, because a lot of people who have not been able to, probably in their family nobody has had a degree or even gone to college, a lot of people are getting the opportunity to go to college. Some of them are getting the opportunity to go to university, get a degree, get a bachelor's degree, master's degree, PhD out there. But the thing is, most of them, they can't come back, because coming back, they'll be just wasting their degree. I'm an example of one. Coming back to Dominica, I tried, I stayed, and then I had to leave. And that's what happens with a lot of people who go overseas to study. I'm very happy that my family has a person with a master's degree. I'm probably the first person in my family with a master's degree. We had bachelor's degree, but I'm the first master's degree. Yeah, great. But it's not a matter of being able to stay in Dominica and work and be a master's degree. I think the plan of having university graduates from Dominica all over the world, that's the plan that is being in play right now. Now, I'm going to talk about Dominica's education system in terms of what is actually in Dominica, what is being offered to Dominicans. A few years ago, the Prime Minister, he cancelled tuition fees at the Dominica State College. This was a great thing, because a lot of people would benefit from lower costs to attend college in Dominica. Tuition fees are really not the larger part or the largest part of the payments for school. Taking off tuition fees was, I guess, of great help to some people who probably were struggling with paying for their tertiary education. So it was a good thing at that time. However, Dominicans probably had no idea that the cancellation of tuition fees would mean that the college would not be supported as needed, or to make the college would not be able to receive the funds to maintain the campus or to maintain the level of education at the school, because there's no tuition fees. So I guess we did not know that that was the condition that we were actually accepting. So now, today, the teachers at the lecturers at the State College staged a protest. Now the protest is for they're protesting for better work conditions for themselves and better learning conditions for the students. Now tell me why such a peaceful protest should attract the police to the protest. And the police officer with his green uniform, I do not know who he is, but he must be of that level, who wears a green uniform, will tell the people that they should stop and that he does not want to put his hands on them. What does he mean by putting his hands on them? Why would you have to put your hands on people who are peacefully protesting an industrial protest? It's not even a political protest. It's an industrial protest. This is industrial action How do you come here and tell them they should stop and they should get off the premises? This is unheard of. So is it that in Dominica it's illegal to protest at all in Dominica? I mean, Dominicans have adopted this kind of attitude that protest is only blocking roads and making a big problem, and disrupting everybody else's lives because they want something to go right in their life, right? So a lot of protests end up in blocking of roads and stuff like that. But people have a right to protest. You don't have a right to block the roads, but you have a right to protest. You have a right to protest for anything. You have a right to protest for anything that is not going the way that you would like it to, right? But you do not have a right to affect traffic. You don't have a right to block traffic. You don't have a right to stop other people from moving freely. Now, when you block roads and you block traffic, you are infringing on other people's right to move freely around. So this is a problem. One of the freedoms that are granted by our Constitution is the freedom to move freely. Now, when you block the roads, you're preventing people from moving freely, right? So this is one of the things, and there may be many other things wrong with blocking the roads. But one of the main things that we need to understand while we're fighting for rights and talking about Constitution and all these sorts of things, we need to understand that blocking roads blocks other people from moving freely, and so it is infringing on the rights of other people. But these people, these lecturers are on the property showing Dominicans what's going on and showing the conditions that they have to be facing for all these years, for over 4 years. You have uncovered buildings since after Maria. You have a building without any ceiling since after Maria. You have workshops, you have auto mechanic workshops with no resources at all, filled with stagnant water. Very unsanitary conditions. You have bathrooms with no doors, no privacy, and you do not want them to share that information with the public. You are threatening them. They should leave. And then he's coming and he's saying that they have withdrawn their services, so they are not allowed on the property. How can they withdraw their services without anything official? Does industrial action mean that you're withdrawing your services and you're no longer an employee and therefore you have no rights on the property? Well, besides that, being an employee, Dominica State College is Dominica State College. It's not a private entity. So if the employees are staging an industrial action, they have every right to be on the property. So I don't know if the police officers really not know the laws of Dominica. And they really do not have any common sense, and they really do not support the public in having rights. They don't think that Dominicans should have any rights. They think that they should just tell people what to do. So anyway, what I think about this whole thing is that protesting, for some reason, there's a notion in Dominica that protest is something to do with government and parties. People protest. That's how you let a governing body know that they're not doing the right thing. Now, that is how democracy works. If you are not opposing things that the government is doing, that means they're doing things right. So if it's not working out, it is your right to share that. And this is how it is shared in a democracy. People protest. And you all are sitting there talking about BLM, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. But then when somebody protests for better conditions in Dominica is a problem. How can it be? Right? The teachers had their very respectful, very quiet, very respectful protest. And it was more of let us show you guys what we have to go through. There comes police officer to stop the protest. What is their problem? Dominica is a free country. We need to stop that that overly obsessively controlling type of governance, as we will be sliding down a very slippery slope. What are we? Are we China? This ain't no Tiananmen Square. People can protest. You know, people can say they don't want this and they don't like this and they need change. That is what democracy is about. They are protesting for better conditions, better work conditions for themselves, and better learning conditions for our students, which is totally understandable, totally justifiable, and I totally support. After seeing the video, the live video on MO News, which was the real focus of the protest action, the protest action was really to show everyone what's going on, the conditions that they have to deal with, and to create awareness of their needs and gain the support that the government can hear and respond to their appeals. Now, what made me upset, the fact that instead of sending a representative from the Ministry of Education or from the government of Dominica, instead of sending one of these representative to speak with the lecturers and, you know, to calm everything down and whatnot and have a discussion, the Prime Minister, whoever was in charge, decided that the best thing to do was to send the police to the college to ask the teachers to stop protesting and leave the property. Now, this sets a very bad picture of what Dominica is. Dominica is a democracy, and the way that a democracy lets a government know whether they're doing a good job or a bad job, or whether there are things that need attention and what things that they need to prioritize, they do that through protest action. So the government is doing whatever they think the people want. The government basically does what they think the people want, but the people may not want exactly what the government is doing, and there may be things that the people might prioritize and the government may not see it that way, or the government may prioritize some things and the people may not see it that way. So protest action is the way that people get the government to understand what it is that they want and how to make them happy. The government is there to work for the people. People have a right to protest. Most people who protest, the first thing they go to do is block the roads, which is wrong. So blocking the roads is wrong, but protest action is not wrong, right? Striking is not wrong. Picketing is not wrong. You know, it is not wrong to do that. People have a right to do that. Now we have trade unions, and trade unions are the main ones responsible for leading protest action. So it is something that we are entitled to the right to protest. Now, if somebody is going to protest, if we are planning a protest that might affect traffic, that it may be affecting the free movement of other people, then I understand the police needs to make sure that there's control. Now, if you have a protest action that will draw a large crowd of people, the police would be needed to maintain control of the large crowd. Now, if you just have employees having their protest action with their picketing with their little, their signs and whatnot on the property, being as quiet as the lecturers were. Now, what is the purpose of the police coming here? You cannot use the police to threaten people and to intimidate people for expressing their rights, expressing what they want and what they need. I mean, Hurricane Maria happened, what, 4 years ago? And you mean to tell me you have done nothing at the college? You have repaired nothing? You have repaired nothing at the college? Is it just a country that doesn't care about the youth? We don't care about the youth then. What do you really care about? What do you really care about? Looking at that live video really got me upset, because I cannot believe that in 2021, and after we received so much money for recovery from Maria, the buildings at the State College are still roofless. You have parts of the State College that are roofless, never repaired since the hurricane, and that's 4 years ago. Never been repaired since the hurricane. You have an auto mechanics room with no roof, no tools, no resources, classes with no ceiling, bathrooms with no doors, just a slum. What I saw in that live video, what I saw was just a slum school. That's just a slum. I graduated college in 2002. And 2002, school was in much better condition than it is now in 2021. And you don't want teachers to make their voices heard. You want to send the police to shut them up. And the police have more guts. The policemen have more guts to actually go up there and tell the teachers to move on the to exit the premises because their services have been withdrawn. So are you firing them? You're firing the teachers because they're protesting? So this is very ridiculous. And I don't understand why the Prime Minister does not focus on the priority areas in the country. How can you prioritize building apartments for people who already have homes? Not even for the homeless. You're building apartments for people who already have homes that just want a free house. Probably they were promised a home to vote. The Prime Minister needs to ask himself a question. He needs to ask himself, what does he really want for Dominica? And the people need to ask themselves a question too. Because if the Prime Minister is not prioritizing education, how can you go 4 years after a disaster and no repairs being made to the school? What kind of school is that? The teachers have showed, they've showed everything. They've showed the conditions that they're working with. And it's deplorable. It's shameful. It's an embarrassment to the country for a Prime Minister that claims to be about the youth, for a Prime Minister that claims to care about education, for a Prime Minister who claims to care about the future of the young people in Dominica. So it's shameful. It's an embarrassment to have the Dominica State College in that deplorable state. When I graduated in 2002, the college was in much better shape than it is now. I know there was a hurricane, but we received so much money after the hurricane to fix this and that, until we had spare change. We had spare change to pay $64,000 a month for housing the Prime Minister and his family in a mansion that is alleged to be owned by himself. This is crazy. It's like in Dominica, we don't have any standards. None. Anything goes. It's like whenever I listen to Oprah and Peter Prosper on Anything Goes, I say that is the theme of Dominica, Anything goes is the theme of Dominica because anything goes in the country. Anything goes. You can have a Prime Minister that claims to prioritize education, and he abandons the Dominica State College in that kind of state after disaster for 4 years. And the bad thing about it is that there are some people who will never see anything wrong about that. They love their PM. So this is not a party political matter. And that is the problem. Anytime someone protests, the Prime Minister and supporters of the Prime Minister like to just turn it around and say, oh, it's about party. It's not about party. It's not about party. People protest to get what they want. People protest to get better conditions. That's what people protest for. That is how a democracy works. So this protest that we have, this teachers' protest, has nothing to do with another political party. There's nothing to do with that. Whether you're supporting the Dominica Labour Party, or you're supporting the United Workers Party, or you're supporting some other party, you will and you should agree that these conditions are deplorable and they're unsuitable and they're a shame and they should not be present. They should be improved immediately. So people who do not want to understand that governance is not a party politics thing. Governance is about ensuring that things are done correctly and ensuring that there are certain things that are prioritized. Education is a priority. So if education is a priority, why is the Dominica State College not a priority? And I don't want to start to speak about the library. I'll leave that for another video. But It is a shame and an embarrassment that we are allowing the Prime Minister to get away with things like that. It's ridiculous. So just because they removed the tuition fees, just because they canceled tuition fees for the country, it meant that we get a sub-quality type of education. Is that what it means? It means that now we don't, the resources are no longer available. You don't spend any money on the school because students are paying tuition fees, but they pay fees as well, because the tuition fees are the smaller proportion of the fees that the students pay at the school. So free tuition fees do not mean that the kids go to school for nothing. Free tuition fees free tuition is just a small percentage, a very small percentage of the total cost of attending college. So they do pay. They have all different other fees paying. They just don't pay the tuition fees. Now, if you knew you could not afford to waive tuition fees for the entire country, you don't do it. You don't do something like waive tuition fees and knowing that it's going to result in a lower quality of education. That's totally unacceptable, and people need to speak up. And some people go overboard with everything. That's why it's very difficult to get the support that they're looking for. Now, when you have problems like that, you have a protest, you have people protesting for better conditions. The solution for that is not to ask the Prime Minister to resign. The solution for that is to get the Prime Minister to act and do what is right. That is the solution for that. Now, that is one of my problems with some of the the movements that we have in Dominica. Everything that happens, if the government does something wrong, ask the scare it to resign, scare it resign, scare it resign. That will never have an impact. It will never make a point. You will never make headway doing that. If people protest for something, they want that something. You protest and you move for that, and you ask the Prime Minister, you ask the government, you ask whoever to satisfy these conditions. You're not asking for the whole government to resign. This is ridiculous. Now, when you start doing those things and asking for the government to resign based on that, now you're making it political. Now you're making it party political. So when you do that, you're changing the whole landscape of the issue. When you talk about you want the Prime Minister to resign based on that, because these are things that happen in a democracy. These are things that you expect to happen. So if enough attention is not being paid to a certain sector in the country, then you will expect people to protest, to draw attention to it, and then the action for that, the counteract for that by the government would be to actually deal with the case and make the conditions better. So that is not the answer. The answer is not the government resign. So if you decide, if you want to join the voices of the teachers, and you want to make the voices of the teachers louder, shouting government should resign is ridiculous. It will not help. Shouting the government needs to change the conditions. Demand that the government improve conditions at the Dominica State College. It doesn't make any sense to ask the Prime Minister to resign. The Prime Minister will never resign. Okay? So just leave it at that. We want better conditions at the Dominica State College, and that's it. So don't come with all your magie about asking it to resign. It doesn't work. It will never work. It paquet travail. Just like our Labour paquet travail, it paquet travail. Because I find, based on what I've seen in the video, Labour paquet travail pièce. But it's so they like it, right? It's so they like it.